Alright, hello everyone, welcome to this video. I recently bought this K-50M right here, and before I bought it I wanted to do some research on it, but what I found is that there is very little information about these. Now this is understandable seeing how scarce they are, however I expected to find just a bit more in terms of pictures and videos and even forum posts about it, and only, well, credible source I found was forgottenweapons.com. Now, even in that video, there are some mistakes which I've found, but that's a good example, I guess. That's the only video out there on one of these. So I thought, now I have it, let's do my own video on it, and try and give as much information as I can. Alright, the K-50M. It's quite literally just a PPSH, to be specific, a Chinese Type 50 PPSH, which was rebuilt to hide its Soviet PPSH look. This in an effort to hide the fact that Vietnam was being supported by the Soviet Union and China. However, near the late 60s, they realized it was stupid. The US already knew about the Soviets' involvement in the war, so they quit doing it. Production from these ran from 1962 to 1965, and they made about 7,000 between that time, and then continued to 1967, and in 1967 they reached around a total of 10,000 of these, which is quite a lot. However, not many of these survive today. One thing that I noticed in the video from forgottenweapons.com is that Ian there says these were made to look like Mat 49s. I can see why he thinks that, however, it's not entirely true, because, well, the reason I stated just earlier, they were made to hide the fact they look Soviet, or they're Soviet guns. This information I got from a Vietnamese friend. He has like direct access to first-hand sources, including veterans and museums there, who have multiple examples of these guns laying around. And aside from that, what I've also read, which also makes sense and can be backed up, is that Vietnam it's a jungle. Jungles aren't good for wood. Wood rots real easily there. So that's why they changed out the wood receiver for metal receiver, which actually makes a lot of sense. And I can back this up because they changed out the leather buffer pad from the original PPSH for a rubber one, because leather would also easily rot and rubber doesn't. So that backs up that theory as well. Why? We'll probably never get a answer we can very much back up and be certain about ever, but these are just some theories that I've found while doing some research on it. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into detail about this specific example right here. First of all, sorry for shaky footage. I'm filming this by hand. I don't have a tripod. And second of all, as I live in Europe, this one is deactivated to European spec. That means I can't open up the top cover. Aside from that, it's still fully, well, I wouldn't say functional, but movable. This means the trigger can move, selector can move, magazine can be removed, and the back half of the bolt can also still go back and forth. As you can see here, there's a tiny weld here which locks the top cover in place. Aside from that, there are no welds to be found pretty much anywhere. At least, not done after the war. Okay, so we start off with the markings. This one is serialized 365,000 and there 58. This is the Chinese serial number, and then up here we have 5188. That's the Vietnamese number. This means it's the 5,188th gun that they assembled, I guess, because they didn't quite make them. Aside from that, you have a small P right here. I don't know what that means. And usually, at least all the exams I've seen, have a square with a 2 in it, right there on the front side. This one doesn't have it, I don't know what it means. I don't know what this one doesn't have it. It's completely unknown to me. We also have an 88 here on the pistol grip. This is the last 2 digits of the Vietnamese serial number. So this does mean the pistol grip is original to this gun. Then on the bottom, we have, I don't know how well that shows up on camera, right there, we have a small 2. I don't know what that means either. Now, like I said, this one is deactivated. However, like I also said, the magazine can be removed. The trigger still moves, and the selector also still moves. Bit harsh. It's a bit stiff, but I mean, this thing has been through multiple wars, from what I can tell. Oh, and the bulb, the rear half at least. You see, it has been. If I quickly hold it up, it has been cut right here. So if I can pull it back far enough with one hand, there you can see it's cut. The rest is still welded to the barrel. Now, what exactly has been done to this Type 50 or PPSH-41? It's quite simple actually. The top cover is completely the same. This original Chinese-made piece. The barrel is the same. But what they did is, normally this top cover goes to about here. They cut it off about here, shrink it down, and added this sling swivel. This is not an original sling swivel. This is a handmade piece from a nail. I don't know how well that shows up on camera. You can see there's a nail head which has been rolled, and a piece of wire has been rolled around it. It's I guess the original one has damaged, so the soldier just made this as a fix. They added this, well, AK style front sight. It's not an exact copy, but it looks like it. The complete lower assembly has been handmade. You can see all the, I don't know if these stamp marks or these are spot welds, I don't know. Either one of these. This entire piece is handmade. Magazine is original. It's untouched. It's not handmade by them. Stock is handmade. It doesn't quite line up, or it does line up, but it's not the same on both sides. Here you can see it comes out a tiny bit. There we go. It's too dark, but it comes out a tiny bit. On the other side, it goes to about here. The trigger assembly is also Chinese. It's not made by the Vietnamese. And the pistol grip, I'm not quite sure actually. I think it's Chinese. However, these stampings are not Chinese. These are Vietnamese. I guess the Chinese ones are unstamped and they stamp them themselves. Now you might wonder, how did this thing end up in Europe? Well, I didn't know either, but after doing some slight bit of research, talking with multiple people, I found out that these were captured by China in the Chinese-Vietnamese War. I think this was late 1970s. And then China sent them to Albania for their fight against the French. And Albania, in turn, sent them to Yugoslavia, where these were used in the 90s. And from Yugoslavia, they were imported here, deactivated, and here we are. This is the only one I'm aware of to be in private ownership in Europe. There is one in a museum here in the Netherlands, but I don't know any others here, not just in the Netherlands where I live, but in all of Europe. Right, this is the K-50M disassembled the best I can. I can't take out the bolt and open up the top cover, but it's the exact same as a PPSH. There is enough video about that, enough pictures. You can even see it in ForgottenWeapons.com's video on the K-50M, though he doesn't show how the trigger mechanism is fitted inside, which I will show. As far as I know, this is quite the only This will be the only video showing this, so lucky you, I guess. Alright, the stock is literally just shoved in place. You can just press the button and it'll slide right out the back. This is just a tube welded on that it goes in, and a small button right here. I can't press it in because it protrudes on the other side. That's why I can't press it in right now. But magazine catch, it's a bit loose, but it's a normal PPSH magazine catch, nothing special. Like I said earlier, the trigger group is fully Chinese. It's an exact copy of the Soviet one. However, this one is deactivated, so you can see the sear is missing and the disconnector has been cut short. Yeah, this is quite it. It is marked here on the back. This is also a Chinese serial number. The Chinese numbers will never match on these. The Vietnamese just grabbed parts. They didn't really care about the numbers. So this one is 58. What is it? 58? 5889. That's the Chinese serial number. Then you have the grip with this little cap that goes over it, like this. It's rusty. I cleaned it up yesterday. Just remove the loose rust that was on it. Let me just focus there. That's not quite focusing. There it is. Yeah, Vietnam was a hell on these guns. So the fact that this one is in the state that it is remarkable. It's in real good condition. Talked about the grip. It's not much about it. This screw goes in the bottom and screws in right there. This screw hole. This good little extruding block. The trigger mechanism, if I just flip this upside down, it stays. It hooks up back here and then screws in through that hole with, where is it? There we go. With this screw, and then there's this little ring goes around the screw. I don't know why that thing exists, but it does. And it just goes all the way in there. It's quite dark. I don't know how much you can see, but this outer shell is literally just stamped sheet metal. You can see how thin that is, with a little bathtub shape welded inside. This weld here is not original. That's deactivated. That's where the sear goes normally. However, it's welded shut, so you can't fix it. Yeah, it's super simple. It's just stamped sheet metal. The sights on these are different from normal PPSH. The Chinese, instead of making these sights with U-notches, they have little holes. I don't know how well you can see that. There you go. These are fully enclosed holes instead of U-notches. And these rivets right there. On the Soviet ones, they're left domed. On these ones, they're ground completely flat. This is 100 meters. This is 200 meters. At least I think that is. I think they use meters in China. I'm not quite sure. This right here is the safety. Well, it's supposed to be able to lock in the receiver, whether either up here in the front or there in the back. You can see a small notch. However, these Chinese ones are known to not function. They just don't fit in the holes, so it's pretty much useless. Alright, that kind of concludes my... I don't know if this is a review. My video about the K-50M. These were originally in Vietnam called K-50... I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation, but Bang Sat, something like that, which means Type 50 folding stock. K is short for Kieu or something in Vietnamese, which means type. So, completely translated, it would be Type 50 folding stock. But post-war, the Americans called it K-50M, M for modified, and this kind of got back to Vietnam, and now they in Vietnam call it K-50M as well. So yeah, that's kind of the history of his name. One thing I forgot to mention, magazine. These always were supplied with stick mags, but they could take drum mags. There's one picture of a American soldier test firing one of these, and it has a drum mag in it. However, you cannot close the stock when you have drum mag, because this bar will hit the magazine. And yeah, that kind of concludes this video. I'm really happy I got the opportunity to purchase this. It was expensive, but it was very much worth it. These things are extremely scarce today. I think about 10,000 were made, roughly, and not many came back, not many exist, let alone here in Europe. So yeah, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, comments, just leave them down below. I'll try to answer as much of them. And yeah, maybe I'll do some more of these about other guns that I own, maybe not. We'll see. Alright, laters.